Hi, my name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of the show. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk. Live. Welcome back to Real Men, Real Talk Live. I am host of the show. My name is Jay. I want to take a moment here to introduce my co-host, this time coming in from Southern California, Josh Richer. Welcome back this evening.
So great to be with you guys. Stoked for our episode.
We also have Mr. Evislove Heath, the man of the land from down under, who refers to Australia as home. Welcome back, Evislove.
As always, brothers and sisters, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And of course, we have Mr. Jeff Fasano, who was off last week across the U.S. of A., somewhere in the New York part of town. Welcome back, Jeff. We missed you last week.
I missed being with you guys last week as I was walking the streets of New York City.
And this is the first time in a number of weeks where all four of us are back in the show, in the studio. It's good to have you all back this evening. I want to take a moment here to welcome our viewers and listeners. If you should hear something that you like a lot, we invite you to tap your love button on your monitor and light us up. If you should have any questions or any comments, we know you do a good job of dropping them down into the comment section. We'll do our best to acknowledge as many of them as we can. I want to take a moment here to welcome some of our viewers coming in from YouTube, as well as Facebook and LinkedIn. We have Mo Wilson coming in from Sedona, Arizona. Nancy Clarkson coming in from the Phoenix, Arizona area. Nick Marshall coming in, I believe, from Illinois. And Jason Tompkins also coming in from Sedona. And we have Elizabeth Richter coming in from overseas. I want to say it is, I always get this mind blank. Elizabeth, help me. Is it the Netherlands? Tell me if I got it right. Evis says.
Evis is nodding.
Shannon Thompson, she says, hello, guys, and all. I want to take a moment here to welcome our viewers. Without you, it would just be us four guys just getting together, having deep conversations every week. But that wasn't our intention. Our intention when we launched this podcast back episode 116 this evening, our intention was to touch as many people's lives as possible, to share our own experiences, our own strengths, and our hope, inspiring you that we have infinite possibilities to heal our own minds, bodies, and souls. A lot of it right up in here. Tonight's episode is 116, and the topic is on heaviness of emptiness. And Evislove, I'm going to invite you to kick us off. I believe this was a topic that was inspired in our production meeting just a couple 24 hours ago by you. So I'm going to put you in a hot seat and invite you to light us up.
Me? No, we shared this one, Jeff, and we were looking forward to diving in with our brothers and sisters this I was going to say this afternoon here in the land down under, but tonight for you guys over across the other side of the pond. And yes, we are excited that four of us are back in town. So we're looking forward to diving in deep on another show tonight. And we're talking about the heaviness of emptiness. Are you living the unhealed or fulfilled way of life? And when I think of the term emptiness within one's life, you know, when I hear people say I feel empty, I cut it right there. Feel empty.
Right.
What is the feeling of emptiness? Where is that coming from? What is the void? Generally, when we hear someone say they're feeling emptiness, there may be a loss of something. There may be something that is not feeling right within their life, or a piece of them that is missing. So for me, it really is understanding and understanding where the source of that leak is missing from within your life. Trying to understand some of these things then allows us to find a little bit more meaning, purpose within our life, to feel the missing piece. But for someone that's feeling emptiness, it could mean so many things. So I just don't want to, bury it in one particular box. Because for me, if something's been missing in my life, it may have been a lost loved one. It may have been some of the trauma I went through as the child. It may have been one of the relationships that I was in, that I was set on the solo or the single life again. It may have been where I was let go from a position at work or decided to move on. And there was a missing piece of me that had the feeling of emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, this is another deep topic. And I think it comes on the back end of feeling imbalanced or balanced within our lives. But I know with the four brothers back on the set tonight, we're going to be able to dive in deep and give our brothers and sisters some tips, tricks, and tools to get you living a more fulfilled way of life.
Oh yeah.
Love that, Ev. Great opener.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, Jeff, since I missed the production meeting, what are your thoughts on this? Why was this also co-inspired by you this week? Is there anything that brought it up, or?
I don't know. You know how these things, they evolve. We just start talking. So we'll give the audience the inside scoop of how we come about, how all these topics come about. Like we're talking, like what's going on, what's come up for you, in your life the last week. You know how it, and we just started talking, and we started talking about a lot of the people in his world. Or feeling empty, feeling like something's missing in their life. And actually how it came up was we started talking about many people are still moving through the shadow periods of their life. And within that shadow period, they're starting to feel whatever they're starting to feel. And one of the feelings, and Ev, I'm really, really glad you said your life isn't empty, you're just feeling empty. Because that's really, there's a distinction there. Oh, my life is so empty. Well, no, you just could be feeling empty right now. And in many ways, that could be a wonderful thing if you're in a process and moving and healing and releasing old stuff. That leaves a void. And that too will lead us to feel empty inside. And that is a positive or a good place to be in. You could be, I'm feeling empty right now. I just moved a whole load of stuff. I'm healing this. I'm letting this go. I'm releasing all of this. And when you release it, there's a void. And what we're releasing is probably incredibly familiar to us. Old habits, patterns, rituals, and behaviors that we're letting go and releasing leaves a void and can lead to a feeling of emptiness as well. That just popped into my head as Ev was speaking.
Oh, and that's super true. That's super true. I often call that the free fall, because the brain is trying to scramble for anything familiar. And when you change something really big and alter it, your brain is in that unfamiliar territory where it doesn't know, it can't put patterns together from your experiences before. So it's in this free fall state where it feels like you're trying to grasp onto anything familiar, but it's not there. And it's a scary place to be for the first couple of times that you're in it. But it's also a beautiful place. I've come to be excited being in that state, because it means that I'm on the doorstep of anew, and those old patterns have fallen off of me. And that's when change happens. This is where, positive movement, forward movement comes in our lives. So yeah, it's interesting that you brought up what I like to call the free fall.
Yeah. I was in that place, if you guys remember, maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, where I'd been just releasing so much stuff that nothing felt familiar in my life. And there was like a void. I don't like to use that word empty, but there was a void. I was walking through a void of where there was nothing familiar, because as Josh just said, when we release a lot of old stuff, we have to be in that in between that limbo period and allow it to energetically, what it is within us, it's an energetic reconstruction.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
So I'm curious, guys. Is it possible to be in a relationship and still have an awareness that you feel empty inside? Is it in the relationship fill us up? Does it guarantee that we won't be in a relationship and still feel empty? Have you all shaking your head no? Obviously, it's a setup. What do you think it means, Josh, when you're in a relationship and you're feeling empty? Now, is empty the same as feeling lonely, or are they two different feelings that we're talking about here?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I'd have to dig a little deeper into that one personally. But I will say that if you are relying on your partner to fulfill your needs, desires, self-care, and all of that, then yes, you can for sure feel 100% empty while in a partnership with somebody else. And I've been there, and it's a very lonely place to be. And I feel all of you that are going through that. We have to give it to ourselves, and we have to love ourselves, and that fulfillment and joy needs to come from within.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're left without.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Ev. Do you think that those feelings of emptiness that we're talking about right here, right now, is it coming from our chronological age that we are, or is it a younger part of self that is in that muck?
Could be both, brother. Could also come from old programming, like you're talking about there. A lot of people that I help, man, they're in beautiful relationships from the outside. They have the career, they have the support network or friends, people around them to support them in tough times, but they still feel empty. And to me, it's because there's a lack of meaning. Now, when we have a look at that word emptiness, it is actually defined as quality of lack of meaning within one's life.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So for me, you could have the relationship, you could have the career, the money in the bank, that support network that I'm talking about, and still feel empty.
Right.
But until you find meaning within your own life, which helps with your vision, which helps with your purpose, you will never be living a fulfilled life, and that will project into those people, places, and things on the external world.
Yep.
Bingo.
Yeah. It's your life having meaning, value, and purpose, and whatever that is for us. What just popped into my head is one thing Evis always says is break it down to basics and keep it simple. Many people's lives can be very complicated with an inordinate amount of stuff going on all the time. And if we really break it down and ask ourselves, what's our meaning, what's value, what's our values, what's our purpose, it should really break down to be something simple. And then when we get that place, then we can see our lives as fulfilled. But like Ev just said, yeah, you can have the bank account. You can, it's kind of like that. I forget the name of the Talking Heads song, but where he wakes up in the morning, he goes, "Is this my beautiful house?
Mm-hmm.
This is not my beautiful wife." He's confused about life, and wow, what is this? My beautiful house, my beautiful wife. Wait a second. Is there meaning? Is there value? And is there purpose in my life that leads to a fulfilled life, as opposed to looking outside of ourselves, needing that hit to our nervous system so we feel alive? And that's the beginning of an addiction or something like that. Continually looking outside of ourselves. What is going to stimulate my nervous system today that is going to make me feel alive? And if we live a life like that, all we'll be doing is constantly looking outside of ourselves for the next hit, the next hit, the next hit, and the next hit. And then eventually, when that next hit doesn't come, boom, you're going to hit the a deep feeling of emptiness and wonder why.
Oh,
Well, Jay, couldn't we say then that majority of people out there are keeping themselves busy to avoid this feeling that may be underneath? That they're terrified that, like, when we talk about taking moments of silence and pause for ourselves, and we mean that in a way of like listening to our inner voice, or in a way of self-love, giving ourselves time. But not a lot of people do that. And is it because they're terrified of this emptiness that they feel maybe underneath?
Yeah.
And so we keep
course.
ourselves busy on social media, with TV, and all of that.
Well, another word for busy is distractions.
Yeah.
Jeff mentioned, we could dip into all kinds of distractions that have some kind of component to addictive traits or behaviors. It doesn't have to just be alcohol. It doesn't have to just be drugs. It doesn't have to just be social media or TV or Netflix on TV. It doesn't have to be retail therapy, which is shopping. It doesn't have to be duvet therapy, which is not getting out of bed. It could be all of those. It doesn't have to be any of those. It could just be food. And it could be work, or it could be smoking the next pack of cigarettes, whatever it is. There's a component to numbing out, to distracting ourselves, instead of really having the courage to step in and really look at what is maybe at the root of that feeling of emptiness. But at the same time, if we're willing to embrace, how do we get out of that in a healthy way? For me, I think the greatest gateway to breaking free of feeling empty inside is through self-care. And another component of it, I do believe, is connecting with people. The days when I am able to connect with people at a deeper level, and sometimes it's strangers that I just meet in the moment. You just have that spontaneous connection, that spontaneous conversation that just feels good. In that moment, we're not feeling empty. In that moment, we're feeling connected. We're feeling like we're being seen, heard. We're able to resonate with somebody else. What do you make of that, Ed?
Yeah, 100%, brother. It's one of those number one things as a human being, for that social contact and that connection. And you go back to what you're talking about with loneliness. I mean, emptiness really can manifest into loneliness, particularly if we start to isolate ourselves within our lives and don't have that human connection you're talking about. So that's where we can fall into a little bit of a challenge. And even being able to reach out for support in those times when you're feeling empty or going into that loneliest state is always the most challenging for most people. So for someone that's aware and maybe concerned from a brother or sister, you may have to reach out if they're in times of loneliness and isolation. A lot of people didn't know that I was putting myself into isolation when I went through the separation. And it would have been nice for someone to reach out at that time. So you just don't know, brothers and sisters, who may be going through this feeling of emptiness.
I'm curious, what do you guys think of this statement that Shannon says? She says, we've always got to get to the root of why we're feeling that way. I'm curious, do you guys all agree with that? Is that the most important? How important is that to understand why we're feeling that way? Is that as important as thinking about, okay, having the awareness around how am I taking care of myself? What am I doing to help lift myself out of that low vibration or low thought, those low thoughts that have us in that continuous, hamster wheel, it's going around in circles and not really breaking out of that. What do you think of that, Josh?
What isn't the purpose of all the work that we do getting to the root of everything?
Well, but here's my question to you, Jeff. I've started doing something within the last year that I've never done before. And again, we talk about doing new things create new results, right? What I started doing was, instead of wondering why it was there or what parent I got it from or grandparent or where the story came from, I started just sitting with the feeling.
Yeah.
And just saying, what do you have to tell me?
Yeah.
Like what, because I've shoved it down for a lifetime and never sat with it. And so for me recently, I think it's less about understanding what's underneath rather than me sitting with it and saying, what do you have to tell me?
Yeah. And you know what? You know what, Josh? That's great. That, that is so key. And that actually came up in the production meeting as well. Actually, we were talking about being with all of those feelings, but that's, you're right. You're right on there. It is about sitting with it, going into it and allowing it to be there. And when we do that, eventually the root of it will appear, as opposed to trying to find it, or going back, oh, it's my mother, it's my father, it's this, it's that. Well, you know what, I'm feeling empty right now. Let's just be with that, breathe into it, and allow ourselves to be there, and then even see what other feelings will come up along with it. What am I frightened of? Fear. And all of that will just, and then eventually, and you're right on, eventually, I think the root of it will be there, but the root might not be mom or dad,
Totally.
The root might be something that's going on right now in our lives.
Well, and I think what happens too, Jeff, I don't know if this happens with you. I guess I can only speak from my personal experience, is when I'm trying to when in my old self, when I was trying to make those feelings go away, I'm automatically now labeling it as something bad, right?
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, there you go.
And this is a part of us
Yeah.
that wants to be honored and loved as well. In fact, that part of us really needs to be loved. And then we flip it and we do the opposite, and we shove it down, ignore it, drink it away, keep ourselves doing anything but feeling that and labeling it as this bad feeling.
Yeah.
And that's 100%, brother. And that's where we start to abandon ourselves. We start to judge ourselves, and then we reject ourselves.
Right.
So it is coming back to the crutch and really understanding this emotional intelligence that we always talk about. Being able to identify these emotions and feelings first and lean into them, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Being able to regulate them, manage them when they are triggered through particular experiences through the day. And then most importantly, being able to honor them and express these emotions and feelings.
Yeah, definitely. And always being aware when that self-judgment comes in, no matter when it is, no matter how much work we've done on ourselves. I mean, I just had something come up with a person, and it triggered me while I was in New York, and it was bothering me. And one of the things I learned through it was that this person has showed up once again in my life to mirror back to me what I still need to work on. It was pretty amazing. This person popped into my life in New York, and I felt it, and there's a history there. And then all the feelings were coming up, this anger, this sadness, and all of that. And I wanted to express them, but I didn't, but I was with it. And I said, wow, this is really interesting. And then the person that I work with bi-monthly, we were talking about it and said, there's an antagonist in your life. So really, what is the gift of this person coming into your life that's activating or triggering something inside of you? That is what is the reason for it. And then it takes that other person out of it. Oh, yeah. That person has come along and is an antagonist in my life, is triggering something, it's activating something. What is it? And then we can sit with that and be with that, but be with all the feelings that are coming up with it, and then move through that and allow all of that to be there.
That's magic, brother. But for someone, Jeff, that may not be aware of this mirror consciousness that we're living in, to receive that gift and lesson from those particular interactions, what's some way that they can actually embrace what you're talking about there?
Here's what, in my session with my friend this week, I kind of hit a blind spot with it. What I just said, I knew, but I was in a blind spot in it because of the history with this person and what went down over many years. And he just said, keep in mind that this person came into your life. He asked the question, so what is it activating inside of you? Take that person out of your life. If we can look at it like, instead of needing to get the last word in, needing to tell them off, needing to be right, all of that came up for me. It's like, oh, I just want to tell this person off, and I need to be right, and I need to get the last word in. That's making it about them. And they're on their path. They're on their journey in this lifetime. And as we are, he just said, what is it triggering, activating within you? And look at the gift and the lesson of this person being the antagonist to bring up inside of you. Because to be honest with you, as we do this work, we could be faced with someone who may be triggering us, but if we can get to that place where it doesn't matter, then we know we've moved through that part of ourselves. So I guess the answer would be just to keep in mind or be in the awareness and consciousness that if someone comes along in our lives that activates something inside of us, know that that's why that person has come along in our life. And just keep that in mind, and then say, okay, what is it activating? What is it triggering inside of me? What unhealed aspects of myself that this person is just activated and triggered that I now have the opportunity to heal?
100, brother. I love what Nancy Beam's saying out there. Can you get that up, Jay, brother?
We lost Jay again.
Oh, he's gone. Okay, Nancy
Jay's
out there.
gone again.
Nancy out there says, I think sometimes when we have these empty spots, sometimes we're afraid to fill up those empty spots for the fear of losing people or things again. What do you reckon that, brother Josh?
Wow.
Yeah, totally. It's that it's the fear of the unknown again, right? If we honor ourselves, if we listen to that part, if we step into this and see where this discomfort is coming from, and it is coming from someone close to us, it's a hard realization. And that's a tough pill to swallow. And what do you do with that? It is tough. And unfortunately, deep down, if it's going against us and our values and our truth and all of that, there's no way to fix it. And sometimes we have to let people go in our lives. And it's okay to grow apart. Even with best friends and close friends that you had, from forever when you're young, it's okay to grow apart. And it's just a part of life as we evolve. Because we all can't evolve at the same pace, speed, level. I mean, we all have our own unique traumas and things to go through. So there's no way we could all stay parallel forever.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, brother.
If we can, maybe we stay in the place of when people come into our lives and trigger and activated ourselves, just say, wow. And we can look at this at any relationship. That person has come into my life to be a protagonist or antagonist that is perfect in my soul journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And everything is perfect. If we can look at that, but we will get, activated and triggered and then move into that place. Like I said earlier, if we're letting go of a lot of stuff in our life, we are going to create a void and ultimately probably feel empty. But know that that's a wonderful place to be. And it's not about filling up the emptiness. Because as Ev said, and he led off the show, it's just a feeling. We're not empty. And I guess that's the key. If we really look at our lives are not empty. We're just feeling empty from time to time. It's just that we have to evolve into that place of understanding that I'm just feeling an emptiness right now. And I don't have to go out and get that hit or stimulus outside of ourselves. Like Josh said earlier, just be in it and allow yourself to be there in it. Don't sink or indulge into it, but allow yourself time to be in it. But be aware if you're going to run out and, try to fill it up by doing something, by going to the mall.
Now, Ev. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
So we've given our brothers and sisters quite a few tools already. Being able to release or be able to relieve some of this emptiness within our lives. Moving forward from that unhealed to what you're talking about there, Jeff, to the fulfilled. What could that look like for someone's life in being able to find that balance back with more fulfillment within their life after moving out of the emptiness?
Well, Josh it's about gratitude, right? Josh begins with, looking at what is in our life. Like I just said, our lives, everybody out there, look at your life. It's not empty. There's a lot of wonderful people in your life. You know what? Here's what came up when I was in New York with this person. I immediately focused on this one person. But then there are a myriad of a whole bunch of other wonderful people and family who were fulfilling. But sometimes we want to focus on the one person or the one aspect, and then we forget all of the other people and all the other aspects that are fulfilling in our life, but we just focus on that one thing or one person that isn't working. And then it's really, I think, about focusing on who supports our highest good, who is a champion of our greatness. And then that will shift things to see that, wow, there is a lot of wonderful aspects of my life that is fulfilling.
Love that, Jeff.
And what about for you, Brother Josh? What's fulfillment like for you, my friend?
You know what it was for me? It was, Jeff was talking about reframing, right? We're able to catch our thoughts and choose more supportive ones, or choose to focus on the gratitude and the things that we do have rather than the things that we don't. For me, so much joy and peace, the peace that I wanted so desperately that I almost took my life to get, from that mental chatter and the noise and just the constantly berating myself or judging myself. It was just, when I found what you're talking about, Ev, it was through quieting the mind and able to just be. Then when I am with somebody and I'm talking with a friend, I'm actually taking in what they're saying and I'm engaging with them rather than I'm up here, I'm here with them. And joy comes in, laughter comes in. When I was able to master quieting the brain and not having to drink my face off with alcohol to mask all of that stuff and to mask the emptiness and to run away from, maybe that's what I'm trying to say, was like when I stopped doing the run away from energy and ran to, there was so much more stillness and quietness. And then in that place of peace, joy and laughter came back. And that's when life got really fun for the first time in a decade.
Love that, brother. Love that. Jay, are you okay there, my brother?
Yeah, Jay, okay? What's going on?
Sometimes the universe has a different plan. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We can hear you, brother.
And so, this is a great example of, do we pivot or do we surrender? Sometimes it's okay to surrender. Sometimes you just got to say, uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to us to know when. And I love what I've been able to hear, picking up just as I'm trying to get back on a Mac here right now. I'm using my mobile device, which has me a little bit of a handicap. But I've enjoyed what I've heard so far. You guys are doing a great job. So just keep going.
Now we want to hear from you now.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Really?
we've
Hit me up.
had an emptiness of Jay.
Really?
Give me a question here, and I'll do my best to respond. What do you got?
We've been talking about, brother, we've been able to clear up the air with, what emptiness may look like in most people's lives. And, a couple of those tools to help them out and release some of that emptiness feeling. Now we're looking at, from that unhealed version of ourselves, to what fulfillment may look like in your life. What does that look like for Mr. J, the Roth man?
It's a beautiful question. And I love how, Josh, you answered it. I would say for me, fulfillment, first and foremost, is when I feel okay, when I'm not present for myself, and we easily get into, all of us can easily get into our thoughts, into our head. When you've done enough work on self, on a healing process, you should have created some tools, knowing what to reach for. And sometimes at any given day, a tool that I may reach for today doesn't do what it did for me yesterday. So it's really becoming more of a conscious observer of self. We talked about that last week. We mentioned that. And really paying attention to what it is in that moment that you think you need and stepping into it. So for me, nutrition is a big factor, making sure I'm drinking the minimum amount of water every single day. Water is what is the greatest fuel for the brain, for our thoughts. Nutrition behind that gives me the power. Then using modalities that I use for my health, whether it be some things that I've picked up at home that I now have here, or going for walks every day, going for hikes, spending time connecting with other people. That is a really big factor in my life today. Because I spent so much of my life not connecting, not feeling like I could relate to other people. And that was because I was just too busy in my own low vibrational thoughts and behaviors. And so fulfillment for me today is when I'm able to feel like I can connect first and foremost to myself, where I'm in a space of more calm, ease, serenity, comfort. And that then gives me the inspiration and the energy to connect with other people. And sometimes it is picking up the phone and using a video chat. It's not picking up the phone and using the phone. You've heard me say it on episodes before. I really enjoy seeing people, because when I see people, I have a greater understanding of where they're at. And I feel that connection at a much deeper level. So those are some of the thoughts that bring me fulfillment. I'd say also it's making sure that I'm being true to myself and fulfilling my own needs. And when I'm not, I don't have anyone to blame. I get to look in the mirror and go, okay, why am I feeling this way? Like today for me was not a great day. I had some things that kind of popped up. And what's interesting is the universe kind of kept that going. It kind of put me at, this is the first time in 116 episodes where I've experienced being off air, meaning we've lost power in the house twice. And since we started the show. And so for me, it really is always about being aware, being cognizant, and looking and asking yourself, what is it that I need to do or should I do for myself in this moment to help bring me up at that higher level? Does that make sense?
Beautiful, brother. Beautiful, man. Deep. Plenty of gold in there, my friend.
Now, Ev, you teased something in the beginning that I want to go back to because it was really important. Purpose, meaning. Those are some really scary words for some people. And I know they were for me for a lot of years when I was without either of those and just grinding it out, trying to make a buck, trying to, it was about what can I get, not what can I give in life. And so, Ev, do you got a tip for someone who's out there without, I know there's a lot of people out there without purpose or meaning right now, or they feel like they haven't found it yet. What can we do to tap into that self?
Hey, was that the multiverse verse? Yeah, brother, you asked a really important question, man, because it was actually the video that I did this morning on the live, and I talked about meaning because there was actually a study, it was done with one of your papers over there, and the survey went around and asked people within the study about did they have meaning in their life. There were 40% of those people that said no, they don't have any meaning within their life. And 25% of those people said they were neutral, whatever that meant. So you can see the high percentage of people that don't have meaning in life, and which for me struck a chord with why there's just so much stress, so much depression. And for me, when I start to really help people align to the meaning within their life to create that purpose and vision, I ask them, what would that vision be? What would that vision statement look like within their world? That vision statement to me, it really encompasses, like I always talk about, your values and your beliefs. And when we've been able to establish what those values and beliefs within our lives are, and we're really aligned to those to the point where it's just automatic to our lives, that no matter what challenges, obstacles, limitations, restrictions, self-doubt come up in our space, we can always jump back on track with that visual. The magic about the vision statement as well is that we can guide it and aid it with a vision board. So for me, I'm playing with the left and the right brain here. Once we have the statement in writing, we then create the vision board to create the images, create the cutouts, the printouts, whatever it may look like, to put at the forefront of your mind. That second thing for me is making sure that we cultivate a growth mindset. There's so much pessimism and, darkness in this world at the moment, my brothers and sisters. It is heavy, heavy, heavy out there. So by cultivating this growth mindset, again, we open ourselves up to other people's perspectives and how they may look at life. We may be more empathetic to how they look at their life. But the growth mindset also allows you, again, to overcome some of these obstacles in your life. Those last two things for me, brother, is make sure that you explore your passions. People still working at the 9 to 5, they hate their job, but they're walking around like robots and zombies, feeling fried by the end of the day. You might be doing a side hustle. It might be just something that interests you when you wake up in your morning, that lights that belly flame in your belly. Those passions can actually turn into that meaning within your life. And that last one you already said tonight, my brother, it's gratitude. Practice gratitude. You know, you become a much more simple, but not easy, brother. You become a much more generous person to other people, places, and things. You open yourself up to more things to come into your life. And then your outlook, like I said, will really start to align to that meaning and purpose that I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Fasano, I was just going to say, Fasano knows the second to last one you said very well, where your side thing became your passion, became your purpose, and now is your life.
I want to switch gears here real quick and jump into what are the steps to build resiliency around uncomfortable feelings? Who wants to take a stab at that?
It's about how, well, I think, if we look at our lives, the shadow periods that we go through, the healing periods that we go through, looking at how we've moved through dark nights of the soul, various challenges in our life, and here we are. It is about our resiliency of knowing who we are. If I know who I am, any challenge that comes to me, I will be resilient within that. And if we're in a personal process, and Ev said it earlier, we're all saying it, using our tools. We hit a challenge in our life. We hit a dark night of the soul. We hit a shadow period in our life. And they come. They could come often and they come now and again, but they will come and they'll be there. What tools do we have to move ourselves through those periods? Being in them, allow us to have the experience of them. That's one tool that we could use when we're in a challenging period in our life, when we're in a dark night of the soul, when we're in a shadow, is what experiences do I have that I can call upon that have shown me that I have moved through things? But am I going to allow myself to have this experience of the shadow, have this experience of the dark night of the soul, have this experience of the challenge, so I can have the experience of all of this that will add to my resiliency as I move along in life. As Josh said earlier, when we're going back, if I'm feeling empty, going into that feeling, not indulging or sinking into it, but giving yourself the experience of, right now I'm feeling empty. So can I give myself this experience? So then I would garner some tools that will allow me to be resilient as I move along in my life.
Yeah, I want to jump on that right here, right now, Jeff, and say, from my perspective, it's about, it really, so much of this is about our mindset and being very, 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 very selective as to whom and what you allow into your space, into your aura, that is going to affect us either in a positive or a negative. So, for example, just a little scenario that may sound familiar to some of our viewers. If you're not happy in your job, or you're at that point where you're just not finding it rewarding, fulfillment, you're not passionate about it, it's just a job, just over broke. And you may be paying a lot of money to it. You don't have to be just over broke to have those experiences. Believe me, I was once there.
You know that one.
Senior leadership. However, if you leave your job and then you go home and then you turn on, I don't even know what time the news is on. Is it the 5, 6, or 7 o'clock news?
24/7 now.
Really.
Right before you go to bed, you turn on the news again and watch the news. There's not going to be a whole lot of gratitude. Those feel-good stories aren't really coming through the news wires these days. It's all about anger and rage and deceit and mass murders and suicides and pandemics. And there's such an overload of heavy news. And if you think that that is actually helping you, that it's actually a blessing, then there's a really good chance you probably need to reassess. Because the truth is that type of program is never going to bring you up. It's always going to bring you down. And so there's just one example. I just used the news. You know, we could talk about people in our lives. If we're in a relationship with someone that may be a family member or a friend, or maybe an intimate relationship, if they are consistently dumping and purging, and they are living in that space, it's not our job to rescue them. It's not our job to bring them up. It's their job. Our job is our number one responsibility is to make sure that we don't dip down into that low space that brings us down to those feelings of what we're talking about here tonight. So there is a responsibility and there is an obligation that we have to ourselves. And nobody can rescue us from ourselves. That is our responsibility to do that. Now it's picking and choosing over, however many hours you're awake just for today, who and how you're going to invest your time and your energy, where you're going to give it. And that to me is how we build resiliency, is being a little bit more selective. What I'm talking about here is setting boundaries for ourselves so that we don't get sucked into that vortex. And there's plenty of them there. If we want them, we know where to find them. We don't have to go too far. But if we are willing to break the chain and break our old patterns and how we show up, and we're more active in making healthier choices for ourselves, we have a really good opportunity to improve and bring ourselves to a higher level of resilience. What do you make of that, Josh?
And to illustrate how important this is, and that it's not just surrounding ourselves with woo-woo or affirmations. It's not just, how important this is your brain is an amazing pattern recognition machine. So when you got that best friend that's complaining all the time about my life sucks in this way and that way and this way, your brain finds patterns and goes, yeah, my life sucks in this way, that way, and this way too. Now, to illustrate that, there's something called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. I probably talked about it 100 episodes ago, but it's worth bringing up again because this is exactly what we're talking about. It's like when you go to buy that new car and you're looking at you look the car up online, you go and test drive it. All of a sudden you see that car everywhere. Now, it's not that 1,000 people went out and bought the car the night before and there's more on the road. They were always there. You just didn't see them because you didn't tell your brain by searching online that it's important. The second we start to indulge in thoughts, the brain finds that pattern in the world. It's like a lens. Your lens changes. So when we get caught in negativity and we're watching the news and there's all of this fear and all of this, we start to see that in the world. The lens changes and it becomes negative around us. So that's why it's insanely important to watch our language with ourselves, to watch the language we use inside our heads, to watch and filter the intake that's coming in on our end, because your brain is just going to find more of what you're taking in. And it's science, and that's how it works.
We got a question here from Mary Kelly coming in from Sedona, Arizona. I think I know that one. She says, when you are speaking affirmations, if your subconscious doesn't believe it, will they work? Ev, what do you think?
It won't work if the subconscious doesn't believe it in the way that you've been able to reprogram it. And what I mean by that is that how are you doing these affirmations? Because it's one thing to actually start reciting out the affirmation. It's another thing to visualize what you see with the affirmation. But the key here is now, are you acting on the affirmation? That's the only way your subconscious will believe you, is through repetition and behavior.
Well, if our subconscious, meaning that if we're creating affirmations in our life by you recite an affirmation is you already are having this, you already are doing it. I am, a wonderfully gifted photographer shooting all these people around the world. That's an affirmation. The part of us that doesn't believe it is our wounded part. The part of us that doesn't believe it is the wounded child. The part of us that doesn't believe it is the conditioning and the programming that's still there, or the voices that's still there that says you're not worthy to have that, what you just affirmed. That is what we have to work on to heal those parts of ourselves, and then find that purpose. The affirmation is because we can have anything and do anything we want in our lives. If I'm making a living as a photographer, anybody else could do it. I mean, it's like, damn, it wasn't rocket science.
Oh, come on, Jeff. Come on, Jeff. That's a gift of yours, man. You've got the eye, brother.
But what I know that, and I've worked my butt off to study the craft and know that, but it's something that I created because there was a feeling in me about it. It was a passion. It was there, this feeling, this love, this joy. And as Ev said earlier, that's the thing to find in our life. What brings us joy? What brings us the greatest amount of joy in our life? What popped into my mind earlier when we were talking about this was so many people, and I included, living in scarcity consciousness and survival consciousness.
Totally.
So I need to get this 9-to-5 job and have this job every single day because I need to survive life. The more money I have in the bank, the more well off I'll be. I'll have my 401ks, my pension plans. All that's wonderful. But are you doing it out of a place of scarcity and the need to be safe and secure and survive life? Most people are here to survive life as opposed to live life. There's a difference.
Beautiful.
It's a huge difference.
Huge.
Love that.
Massive.
I want to take a moment here just to acknowledge, just to shift gears as we're coming up on the hour. For those that have joined us this evening, viewers that haven't been with us for some time, welcome back. Jazz Star, welcome back. We have missed you, girl. And I've enjoyed a couple of conversations we've had through messages and all. Most recently, also Carrie Crary, who is in this moment, she opened up. She stepped out of the nursing field after being a nurse for 20 years in the Phoenix area. She's been a viewer, a fan, loyal viewer and fan of our show for a long time now. And just this week, she opened up Carrie's Healing Cafe. And really,
very cool.
It's not a cafe where you go for elixirs or coffee or tea. It's a cafe for holistic healing modalities if you are in the throes of some type of chronic terminal diseases. It doesn't just have to be cancer. It could be other diseases like autoimmune. I stopped in there on my way home from SoCal on Sunday evening just to see her, just to give her a hug, just to connect. And there's, for me, that's where fulfillment comes in. I just love when I have that opportunity to really acknowledge the courage that someone else has in that moment to step into their purpose and passion. And so I just have nothing but love in my heart for, and just incredible respect that Carrie stepped out of the traditional career in medicine to do what many people dream of, but don't ever actually achieve. And so I just want to take a moment here to congratulate you, Carrie Crary, on I'm really stepping into your passion and that hopefully will bring you all that you wish for, all that you dream for, all that you have visualized for. And so with that, congratulations, Carrie Crary. And if there's anyone else that right now is in the throes or on their way healing from any type of virus or disease, we're here to support you. We love you. We are holding high energy for your healing process. And Carrie says, my greatest gratitude. There you go.
Mm.
And so as we are at the hour mark here, I'm going to invite each one of you just to take a minute or two, just to kind of put a pretty bow on a show and call it a wrap. Jeff, you want to kick us off right now? We got about a minute or so. If you can just kind of close us out with closing thoughts tonight around the
Wow.
No pressure.
I'm going to go back to, the heaviness of emptiness, the title of the show, and how that might weigh you down. You're feeling empty. You're feeling that there's something not in your life. There's something you're missing out on. There's a hole in your life. We talked about it tonight. Allow yourself to be in it. Allow yourself to explore it. Explore what you're feeling. Give yourself the experience of it, as opposed to trying to run away from it, medicate yourself with it, distract yourself from it, or even repress and suppress it. The key to it is whatever we're feeling, like Josh said earlier, allow yourself to explore it and to have the experience of it. So then the energy will move in your life, and then always keep your eye on all the wonderful people and things in your life already who support you.
Beautiful. Ev, you're up. What do you got?
Yeah, brother, I'll keep it quick. I said this on a reel the other day as well, and I want all out there, my brothers and sisters, we're talking a lot about our inner emptiness. So I want you to use this analogy. When you think of emptiness in the future, think of it like your hunger with food. We generally ask ourselves these questions with food. What nutrients does my body need right now? We ask ourselves, what's going to taste good right now? And we also say, what is going to satisfy my hunger? So by answering these questions, then what do? We start to determine specific foods that are going to satisfy that hunger. Let's reframe it and flip the script to the inner emptiness. What does my spirit, my soul need right now? What would be appealing to ease the inner emptiness, the heartache, all of this challenge and struggle in my life right now? And what would make my inner emptiness feel satisfied in my life right now? So when we're thinking of this experience and emptiness like our hunger, my brothers and sisters, then we start to look for those missing aspects within our lives that may not be prominent within our focus. That, my brothers and sisters, to me, is when we start to look for real soul food.
I think we're done. That was freaking amazing, Ev. Dude, you just hit a grand slam out of the park tonight. Wow. I love that. If we could all just practice applying just that. We all know how to tap into if we're hungry and what it is that we want to eat and all that. I don't want to repeat what you said. If we just apply the same practice to our mental health, to how we're feeling, it will change everything. I love that. Beautiful. Well done, Ev. Josh, you are. How do you top that one, brother?
I'm gonna tie in a tiny dovetail into that, which is, we've gotten so used to judging these uncomfortable parts of ourselves and times in our lives I was king at it and drank my way through every single one of them. But rather than, I guess I want to say a tip would be to replace judgment with curiosity. And that's when we get the beautiful discoveries of what that feeling is trying to tell us, what it needs, like Ev said. And then once we know what it needs, then we can give that to ourselves, soothing ourselves. And we're not trying to soothe from everything outside of us. So yeah, that reframe, instead of judgment, replace that with curiosity. Become the explorer, like Jeff was saying.
I love that. Here's my closing thoughts is that we can't think our way out of it. It's just gonna bring us deeper into that rabbit hole. It is about one word, begins with the letter A, action. Action is the portal to rise, to ascend to a higher level of consciousness, to a higher level of emotions and feelings and how we feel. We can't think our way out of it. It's like if you're in a maze and you're in the maze, you can't think your way out. You have to act, you have to take an action to get out of that maze. And that takes discipline, that takes courage, that takes consistency, that takes commitment. And if you follow those 3 C's, you will land on what's called clarity. And clarity is really where you want to be, because once you have the clarity, once you understand what it is in that moment to reach for, to help raise your vibration, raise your energy, your life will pivot, your life will shift. And then the truth is that it's not sustainable, meaning we have to come back and practice the same rituals, the same healthy choices tomorrow that we reach for today. We may get maybe 24 hours of a reprieve, but beyond that, it's gonna dissolve, and we got to start all over. So if you see every day as a new day, every day as a fresh day, to make healthier choices for yourself, you have infinite possibilities of dissolving the heaviness of the emptiness. And with that, I love you guys. It was great to have you all back this evening. And see you next week on episode 117. Viewers, we invite you to share this podcast out on your social media feed. Share it with family and friends. Invite some people to watch it, to introduce them to it. You never know. Maybe your invite will change the trajectory of their life, and they will dissolve the heaviness around emptiness. And with that, I love you guys. Peace and blessings. We'll see you next week on Real Men, Real Talk. Wow.